England, who will return to World Cup qualifying action in Latvia on Tuesday. The tournament is in sight, and they'll be buoyed, of course, by that convincing 3-0 friendly win over Wales at Wembley on Thursday. Gents, I mean, so much talk from that game and the win over Wales about players who weren't involved. But, Joby, of the ones who were, who's given Thomas Tuchel a bit of a problem and something to think about?
Well, I think that is the real area to really concentrate on, because I think the first half was outstanding, again, off the back of the Serbia result, which was as good as it's been for a very, very long time. So I felt that, again, you know, as a defensive unit, Gahey and John Stones really looked like, to me, they're going to be the starting two centre-halves moving forward. I know he's gone with other options previously, but they looked really, really solid. I think Elliot Anderson, again, Jules, is just continually impressing in what I think has been a little bit of an issue position for us. I think particularly with Declan Rice's bit more licence, I think what he's really good at in terms of being able to break forward with the ball, I think Anderson in there really allows him to do that. I think when he's a 6 and holding Declan, I think it really does take a little bit away from his game. And of course, you've got Morgan Rogers in that number 10 position. Obviously, got his goal. Again, looked really bright and lively. So I think from me, they were probably the two really stand-up performers that, for me, are a position that are a little bit of a question mark. And, you know, it was a really good performance in that first half.
And given the names that were missing, Steve, you know, no Kane, no Bellingham, no Foden, no Palmer, no Grealish, no Alexander-Arnold, all missing for various reasons. Who of those should be maybe most concerned about their place in the England team with the World Cup less than a year away?
I think that they can all be concerned, because the array of talent now in this generation and in this what Thomas Tuchel's got to pick from is outrageous. I mean, you'd love to be the England manager and have that headache. It's a great headache to have. It's a great problem to have. There's a lot that's been said about Jude Bellingham, you know, about, you know, can he get back in the team? Look, a fit and firing Jude Bellingham 100% is one of the first or second names in this team sheet. You know, what he done in the last campaign, in the last tournament, we relied on him heavily. I think what is going on now with Thomas Tuchel, what it seems to be, is that it's all about the culture, the environment for the team. There's no... Obviously, we're going to need individuals to stand up and come to the forefront in certain games, but it's all about now, listen, you're not going to get picked if you're going to be an individual. You know, this is all about a squad. It's all about a togetherness, which I think is brave. I think it's great. I think it's been crying out for it. I think you look back to the era of Scholes, Gerrard, Lampard, that's not going to happen with this manager. You know, he's not going to sacrifice trying to fit pieces in that's not right. You know, and if you're not fit and firing and you're not playing well, you're not going to be involved.
It's so interesting. You mentioned Steven Gerrard. It comes in the same week that he gave an interview when he talked about the golden generation of egotistical losers, ultimately. Is this idea of a team, therefore, Luke, team before the individual, you know, he's not afraid to leave big names out, is that the way that England take the final step?
Well, I think it's the one thing that we haven't seemed to try over a generation now. So it's an opportunity for him, and I don't think he's made any secret when he's announced his squad. He's almost like batting off all the questions about individual names. It's like, it's what I want to do and what I see is best, from probably him not being as connected as we all are as England fans and have been through the disappointments that we've witnessed. But I think it's an opportunity for him, like with the team sheet and the selection of the squad that he's made, to bring in those players and say, look, you mentioned the culture. You can't win anything if the culture isn't right. And I think we speak a lot about Gareth Southgate's time in charge, how highly the players spoke about him, and they managed to get themselves to major tournament finals. And it's just, what is that next piece to get them over the line? And I think he's prepared to make those tough calls to sort of bring together the sum is greater than the individual parts. And I think so far, yes, it was a little bit of a slow start, and everyone wants to get on the edge of their seat and be excited by England. It's what we're crying out for. But the opportunity he's giving these young players and the talent that Sid's mentioned is a real exciting time to see, can these lads step up? And now, if Bellingham's not available and he's not quite fitting in the ideas that he's trying to bring together, it's a right place for people to come in, like Eze going to Arsenal, stepping up to that next level, and those opportunities that you want to see these players have.
He's given players a chance to shine, but at the same time, Lee, he's also bemoaned the lack of time he gets to spend with these players with the World Cup round the corner, and yet decided to leave out the likes of Bellingham, who was fit and wanted to play, and join up Foden, Grealish, Wharton. He left them all out. Is that not at odds with what he's saying about, I don't get enough time with these guys to build relationships and work on things?
Pretty much so, yeah. I mean, you know, if you're looking at a World Cup that's round the corner, you want to try and figure out your best side. And I get that he's got an array of talent that he's got to pick from. There's no doubt, and that's what Sid has sort of mentioned is there. It's hard being an England manager, but on the same reflection, we've all called for something different, haven't we? That's why Gareth left the reins, and that's why Tuchel's come in. But to leave the likes of Bellingham out, I'm flabbergasted. I really am. I don't care what anyone says on regards of he's left out for a certain reason. He's just coming back from injury. You're taking the likes of, and this is no disrespect to Jordan Henderson, he's in the squad. You've got to bring in your best players that are certainly going to feature at some stage, which Jude has showed that he can do at international level, he can do at top level. So for me, there looks like there's a little bit something more that's going on between Tuchel and Bellingham. For me, for him not to be in that squad, and as you said, you've got to figure out the balance, the changing room ready for that big call, because he's going to come under massive scrutiny. He is, and if he decides to leave out the likes of Bellingham and it doesn't work, he knows it's going to come back and bite him. So it's tough. That's the whole point of being at the head of running an international team with so much quality. You've got to make them big calls, and they've got to be right big calls.
But what he's done is he's put it right on the players to say, look, if you're not performing, then we've got one or two that I think he's got his team set. I actually think I think he wants to keep it in that kind of way. But he's also saying to them, if you're not right, then you're not going to play, and that goes for everyone. Like even I think that, and there's no surprise of why. And I said this at the start of the season that this Premier League season was going to be the most exciting Premier League season to date, and it's proven so at the minute. Not necessarily in terms of football, but it seems every player is at it. Even Harry Kane. Like it can't just be
What's the word?
A familiarity. That obviously he's playing at the top of his game as well, because everyone needs to be fit, firing, and absolutely on it.
But I can understand that. I can understand with Harry Kane, because Harry Kane has been at the centre of our international time for quite some time. We've seen what he can do and what he can produce when he's not involved in games, and that's why I feel he's got to have something different. I like the fact that he's give Watkins an opportunity, he's give Rashford an opportunity, but my big question is that you touch on people performing. Morgan Rogers hasn't performed this season, so basically and that's not no disrespect to him at all, but if you're going on performances at Premier League level or at top level, then, why is he starting in an England shirt? And listen, I'm buzzing myself because he's a Villa boy, but, if you're going to go that way around it...
But he did well against Serbia. I think, I think the manager is trying to reward that group that did so well in the last camp. And I think, I disagree with Lee in terms of certainly the Bellingham issue. I just feel that we all know what Jude Bellingham is about. We all know if he's at the top of his game, he's going to be playing for that England team.
Can England win a World Cup without Jude Bellingham in the team?
Yeah, but I'm a big believer in team over individual, always, Jules, particularly when we've got the talent that we have. But absolutely, is he in our best England team? Yes, 100%. I just feel with this, so much around, him not being in the squad, there would have been a conversation.
Yeah.
I think Anthony Gordon hit the nail on the head. He's played so much football. When you've just come back from an injury, yes, he's played a few games. I think actually he'll come off the back of this in a really good position, Jules. Yes, of course he wants to be involved, but, just letting his body recover, having a little bit of a break, a little bit of a freshen up. And also, I think there's a bit of card marking by Tuchel in terms of everyone does have to be at it and everyone does have to buy into what I want to create moving forward. But, having gone to tournaments myself, like the chemistry and togetherness of those squads is so important. It's not just about that who's on the pitch. So much downtime, you're travelling around, and if you haven't got the right dynamic within the group, and again, you go back to a Jordan Henderson, a lot's been spoken about him, but someone who sort of glues the group together, that bit of experience. John Stones has spoken about that since he's come back in, helping those younger players in the squad. I think there's a lot more to it than just who's your best 11 on a football pitch when it goes to winning a tournament. Yeah, and I think that's what Thomas is trying to get that balance right at the moment. From the outside looking in, it seems that's the way for me.
That would be the case in bringing Bellingham into the squad. No, even if he's not fit, get himself ready, get himself around the squad, get himself being amongst it, because I think this could flip on its head.
I don't think
as
so.
Players, as players, you.
But that's how it's been handled. So if the conversation's been had, which I'm sure it would have done,
Yes,
and the explanation behind it,
I agree with that.
Then I don't think he will be seeing it as big an issue. And listen, of course he wants to be involved. And I say ego in the best possible way. All the top players have got that little something that makes them a top player, right? But I just think in this scenario, I think a lot's been said about it. I think probably too much has been made about it. I genuinely don't see it being a big issue moving forward. And those England players will want Jude Bellingham in the squad moving forward because he's one of the best players.
Why would you make it why would you make it an issue? Why would you not just squash it? If you're Thomas Tuchel, why would you not just squash it and say, listen, we've had a conversation, he's not going to be involved this squad?
Well, clearly that was what happened, wasn't it? He obviously spoke to him beforehand. He made the decision. And by the way, it wasn't just Bellingham. And I think he was made a great effort to say, look, Grealish has been in decent form. He wasn't in the squad. Foden's not in the squad. So I think a lot has been made because of the size of the profile of the player, of course, and the ability of Jude Bellingham. But listen, he's going to be in the squad and he's going to be in the team come the World Cup. I've got no doubts about that whatsoever.
And have a real fire in his belly when the next international window comes around, won't he, to get back in. I just want to finish talking about the competition and the options now all over the pitch, but I think one position and one player we expect is definitely going to start once the World Cup comes around is Harry Kane. He turns 33 next summer at Luke, and yet there's no sign of his powers waning. In fact, I mean, we can look at the stats and on the evidence of this season and what he's been doing in Germany. 18 goals he scored, 3 assists. He failed to score in one game for Bayern, and in that game he provided 2 assists. Is he, at the age of 32, is he getting better?
Yeah, I'm not a bigger fan of the age argument at all. I think these players now are looked after so well, and the recovery that they do get, yes, they play a lot of football, but his overall influence on a game now, it seems to improve season after season when he gets opportunities like that. It just finishes and he always hits the target and arrives at the right time. And listen, he's an absolute different level. And when you're playing tournament football, he is the man that you need on the pitch. And the scenarios that he finds himself in now a little bit deeper, arriving later onto things as opposed to being maybe a focal point, knows where to be at the right time.
There was a few saying that it seemed as though that he was on the decline. But I actually think that he's been revived. You know, he looks fit, he looks sharp, he's as clinical as ever, he's hungry. You know, he loves scoring goals. He's as professional as probably as anyone as there is off the field as well. He loves, like in terms of the England, the meetups. He accepts and thrives on all of that responsibility. And these numbers there, you know, it's outstanding. It's unbelievable. And I think he's in a headspace and a momentum where we've all had it as players. When you're in that purple patch and you just ride it, and again, the age and number. He looks as fit as he does 8, 5, 10 years ago.
The best minutes per goal ratio anywhere in Europe since he moved to Bayern at the start of 2 seasons ago. Final question before we move on. Erling Haaland, third on that list, a goal every 102 minutes. Keep up, Erling. But we heard Jamie Carragher say last week he labelled Haaland English football's greatest ever goal scorer. Lee, if you could only have one up front, Kane or Haaland, who would it be?
Why have you come to me, Jules? Oh, goodness me. I mean, I'm a massive Haaland fan, I really am, but I mean, I look at Harry Kane, I really wished he would have stayed in the Premier League, I really do, because I think he just offers so much, not just as a centre-forward goal scorer, we've seen him at assists, he's got, I mean, his all-round leadership, he's got absolutely everything, and, you know, I'm with the guys, he could play anywhere, Jules. I've always said this, you know, pace, old, he's just so clever-minded in where he appears in the box, you know, he can put them clever passes through. It's just, for me, I think it'd have to be Kane.
And that's where we finish, because Harry Kane, we will see if he is back for England on Tuesday. A win against Latvia might actually be enough, depending on what Serbia do over the next few days. It might see England through to the World Cup. That is on Tuesday evening.